Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Chit-Chat podcast episode. And today we have 3 guests, and we are doing a Father's Day special. Before we go any further, let me introduce our guests to you. Maybe you all can introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hey everyone, I'm Philip. By day, I'm a dad of 3. By night, still a dad. Just kidding. So, dad of 3. I've got 3 lovely kids. I work in a bank in technology. Also serve quite heavily in church. Yeah, so that's me.
And I am one kid. I am also in IT, in fintech. I am a father of 2, married for 12 years now. Wow, that's a long time. So that's about me. I try to serve pretty heavily in church too.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex. So I think there is a commonality between 3 of us here. I'm in the IT line as well. Yeah, so I'm a dad, obviously, or else I will not be sitting here. So a dad for the 3-year-old daughter, then be married for past 17 years. So normally I will serve in the management century in the IT department.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on board this podcast. Just want to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how is fatherhood so far? 1 being not so good, 10 being very awesome. Like, how is it? For me, it's probably 6 to 7. There are good days, there are bad days, but generally it's 6 to 7. I wouldn't say it's completely awesome. But what about you?
Maybe I'll start first, right? So I'm a known optimist.
Okay.
So if you ask me how's the weather, I'll say it's fantastic. So fatherhood's been a 10, it's been a 10. There's still ups and downs.
Okay.
With 3 kids, there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But they teach you a lot of things, and I really enjoy this whole journey. Be it, learning to deal with maybe difficult conversation with the children, or learning from them, actually seeing a lot of them as a reflection of myself. When there are difficult period, then you realize that, hey, maybe that's what they picked up from me. Yeah. And that's in reflection. There's a lot of things that for me to improve. So it's been a great journey. It's a 10.
Yeah. Wow, that's great.
It's actually a 10 for me too, because even though there are meltdowns, there are good days. The good days are 10, the meltdowns days are also 10, because
Seriously?
Yes. Let me tell you why. It's because I prayed for this. I prayed to be a parent. I prayed to be a father. So when you pray for something, you have to accept everything, the bad and the good. So it's a 10 for me. The experiences has been, it's awesome. It's 10.
Yeah, that's great.
For me, it's also 10 as well. Because having said that, I think it's a long journey, because for myself and for both my wife, we waited for almost like 14 years to have a daughter. So it's a long journey, it's a long wait. And we also said that, okay, good day, bad day is still a 10. And I do echo what Philip mentioned, the reflection. So this is a very good time for me to reflect. Did I done well? Did I done the right thing? Or did I try to take a shortcut? And then it's reflected by my daughter. To me, it's like, it's like, how do I say, a good reflection ground for me, so that I can do better, so that I can become a role model. Yeah. So I would say parenthood for me is learning for both ways. Learning from my daughter's reaction, her attitude, how she react, and how she, even though she doesn't know how to speak, but how she react, and her reaction, it kind of like bring me, I shouldn't be practicing this kind of things further. I need to put a stop.
Wow, that's great. Now, when I first found out I was going to be a father, it was a mix of both. Wow, you're very excited, very happy, but at the same time also very nervous. I'm very young. I'm actually very young.
I can see that.
But when I first found out I was going to be a father, I was so nervous, And when my first kid was born, I was so nervous in the hospital, because also the giving birth process was a little bit complicated for the first child. But then, raising the first child was really a nervous affair for me. The second child, not so bad. But what about what were your emotions like when you first found out you're going to be a father? I would presume for Alex it's great joy.
Definitely, right? Of course. Yeah, spot on. Because I've been with it for 17 years, and it's really a miracle from God. Prayers for everyone, for the church member, everybody that I knew of, everybody that I know, they keep on praying for me. Appreciate that. I really want to, give thanks for everyone. And then God really answered the prayer. Yeah. So for me, it's really like, wow, when I first thought of it, it's like, wow, is this true? Okay, so it kind of like a shock. We are kind of like a stun, and then we kind of like, what's next? And then because it's the first child, and then after a few episodes of disappointment earlier, so this is kind of like we dare not to accept the fact, and also we really need to sit down, calm ourselves, and say, okay, if this is God's will, then what we should do next? So I will say the rest is a history, and it's a blessing from God.
Wow, that's great. What about one kid or Philip?
Let me go first. So it has been, I think what you're referring to is the chasm, right? So when I got the confirmation that I'm going to be a father and we were pregnant, I just was very happy. But the realization that I will be a dad forever, that is the chasm that I'm referring to, didn't really occur until I hold my son and we were in front of God for his baptism. That was the time that I really realized forever, no matter what happens in life, I'll be a father for this baby that I'm holding forever. That is the chasm. So that was a mixture of nervousness, like you said. So I definitely can relate to that, as well as also knowing that I need to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
Always, every day, I have to show up.
Yeah.
And also letting them know that it's okay sometimes to fail, fall short, but you have to show up. At least you have to set yourself that standard. So it's nervous, I get it. But always willing to step up.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, sorry for the interruption. I think I do agree because what Monkey mentioned is very, very true. It's still a dream for me until my wife gave birth. I hold my daughter on my hand and I said, okay, I should be working out for my dream already. And the next milestone will be bringing her for the baptism. Okay, now I realize what are the full responsibility I need to do. Yeah. But it's a good journey and it's a blessing from God.
Yeah, that's great.
It's been so my eldest is 13 this year, right? So it's been 13, 14 years ago. So it's a bit hard to recall how how that feeling was. But I do remember this one particular moment where, well, actually during the time we were trying to conceive, and after that, and when the child's born, right? When my eldest born, when they fall sick, for example, it then reminds us, me in particular, of how limited we are. We could be seen as leaders in our own things that we do at work, and we could be calling the shot in certain areas. But then really in life, there's so much things that is out of our control. It really actually reminded me of trusting in God. There's only so much you can do. And then beyond that is learning to have the faith in God, understanding the promise that He has for all of us, individually as a family and then for the children, and learning to just give it wholeheartedly and say, okay, God, take control, right? So that's kind of the emotion that relates when you talk about having kids.
Yeah, that's great to hear from all of you. I mean, all of you are way more senior than me in terms of your kids' age as well,
Just
right?
experience.
But I think there is also something that I think as a father, like once you first became a father, then you have, or maybe once you first found out you're going to be a father, like you begin to envision things like, okay, this is what the kind of father I want to be. Some of the things that we envision is probably in contrast to what our parents were. How they used to raise us, and probably might want to change some of those things. But for me, I envisioned myself to be a very, I had these things, a few checklists that I needed to be. Okay, you need to show up, like what you say. I don't want to be an absent father. Trying my best not to be an absent father. Trying my best to be a good listener, because I realize now that's really hard. Especially when, a 4-year-old has her own opinions. A 4-year-old girl has her own opinions. It's really hard to be a good listener. But what kind of father do you envision yourself to be, if you don't mind sharing with our audience?
Maybe I'll start first, right? Okay. So we're all about the same age, which means that our parents, our father, come from that age, which is, the typical Asian dad, right? Or the Chinese father who maybe speaks very little. The most you will get is that nod at home, right? That kind of acknowledgement. I think that's maybe stereotyping, but that's true to some extent, right? So in reflection of that, I do want to be someone who can be a friend, right, for the children, who can be very approachable,
Yep.
who listen, also give advice and things like that, right? So, and that actually is not that difficult because guys generally likes to play, right? So with the kids,
Yeah.
where the play part I think is easy, but also being that, I guess, trusted person who can really shell out advice and be that shoulder or be that I guess support. So that's something that I envisage to be approachable and yet dependable, for the children.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. What about you, one kid?
For me, it's the same thing. My father, I think, speaks a bit more from the typical Asian dad. But I definitely want to be somebody who is always there, a friend, but also somebody, a role model that they know that they are capable of of anything that they put their mind to. So I envision somebody, a dad who is hardworking, who is a role model, but also somebody they can confide in. Yeah, and also somebody who and also breaking away from tradition, right? I also want them to see that I am okay. It's okay for me to fail. It's okay for me to break down sometimes and be tired. Because one thing that my father was really good at is he's showing the Superman. He's the Superman of the house.
Yeah.
But as I grow up and I'll grow older, so the fantasy breaks apart, and I can see the real weak person that he actually is. So I do not want that breaking of fantasy happening to my son. I want to show him the human side of me, we are human, and also be the role model, be the person that shows up, be somebody that he can confide in. To be fair, if I have to rate myself, I give myself a C. Still a lot of room to improve.
Yeah,
For me.
definitely.
Can I just add on that part that you say, showing that, hey, we are not that Superman? I think this is super important, especially in the past few years, we all talk about mental health and just being really genuine and authentic. And then showing that, hey, we are not perfect. We're going to make mistakes too. And also ability, therefore, then to apologize, right? And say, hey, I didn't do this. Or I raised my voice or whatever. Or I promise I'll be there, but I couldn't be. And here's the reason why, right? And then ask for that forgiveness. I don't think these are the vocabulary that was that popular back then.
No thank yous, no well done, no sorries.
Yeah.
It's been expected. You need to do this. You need to essay on this. Yep.
I have my family is all girls. Like I got 2 girls and my wife. I feel I need to always be the Superman.
Man up, is it?
Yeah, I have to always man up. I'm the only man in the house anyway. I do all the heavy lifting. But I think I need to learn from you also. Must be willing to let down that guard.
So my daughter would do this, right? I mean, sometimes she'll be like, "How's your day?" Because we created this kind of culture to just talk about days and how's your day? What do you do? What's a good thing? And then sometimes they will look at it and say, "Wow, you look Daddy, you look tired. Are you stressed out?" Yeah, today is tough. And then I mean that opening up and just being genuine, I would think that really broker a more genuine relationship and closer relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree on this because even though my daughter is only like 3 years old, but sometimes I notice that right when I came back home like too tired, she can kind of read the mood and then she will be very far away if I'm having a negative thought. Coming back home happily, then she will try to be very, come nearer to me. So I do agree that because historically we brought on in the situation where I need to man up and the guy, the anchor of the family and things like that, I call the shots and everything. But moving forward, I do agree that, I felt that, it's not do agree, I felt that I need to be more open up and then need to be have more interaction with my daughter, not like, because I'm the guy not really like to speak that much, especially talking about emotion, talking about like how do I feel on there, things like that, because I will see that as a witnesses, in the real man, right? Yeah. So gradually my wife also highlighted this, and then also initially I thought it was like, hey, I communicate normally with my daughter, but how come my daughter in the certain days she don't want to, don't want to get near to me, things like that. Then I will reflect back, okay, the way that I show to my daughter that I am not in a good mood to be approached by anyone. Yeah. So those are the things that I need to learn, and also I need to really have a change of habit, and also need to be more open up. I started off to be trying to like have more mental health, emotional kind of like sharing with my wife. What happened to my in my job today? What happened in her job today? I noticed that sharing kind of like improve my mental health, and it kind of like making the communication much more better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that 3 years old kids now, they are very, very sensitive to the surrounding.
Yeah.
No, they are. They are.
Yeah, 3 years old on 2 years old, they have their opinions already on what they want and what they don't want.
Even a one would have. It's just that they can't tell you. Yeah.
Even when they are below 1, they already have.
Yeah.
They already have already.
Yeah,
they
but
are
they
like
just they scream and they cry for what they want.
True.
But you see, as much as as fathers, we share the load. But at the end of the day, the responsibility of handling family affairs ultimately still rests on us. Yeah, especially some fathers are sole breadwinners. But then there will always be what we call issues that arise in the family. If it's not a broken pipe, it's something to do with the kids. If it's not with the kids, then it's something to do with certain family issues, relational issues. What are some things that you all have faced, and what is that method that you feel you can share that has helped you in that particular situation?
This is a good one. That's a very deep, thoughtful question.
Yeah.
The one that really stood out in my mind was when we were very overwhelmed, and we just had Hannah, my youngest born, and no helper then. And it was late at night. As you know, newborns are not sleepers.
Yeah.
It's like they have slept for 9 months. Now I'm not gonna sleep.
Yeah. Or they just choose to sleep in the day and not at night.
Just
Yeah.
whenever we need to sleep, or they don't want to
Yeah.
sleep. So we were very tired, and I sort of lost my temper, broke a few things. wasn't a nice situation to be in, lah. But after a while, when everything managed to calm down, what matters, I think, will really help me. I don't do that anymore. What really helped me to stop that from happening again is to really share the problems and know that sometimes it is your responsibility, but solving it is everybody's responsibility. It's okay for everybody to share the load. Because if everybody knows that they need to pull their weight in the family, everybody knows that it's okay if some things are just left outside. The dishes can be left unwashed, for example, and talk about it afterwards. Even though after the big hoo-ha and the big drama, we talk to everybody, even even Isaac, my firstborn, and talk things through, telling them that what happened, telling them that it won't happen again, telling them why it happened. So reflection after something that happened is something that can help us, a retrospective, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of reflection, communication, conversation.
Yes, which is something that my parents doesn't do with me, which I'm trying to break. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. What about yourself, Philip?
Yeah. So I think a bit more practical point, I suppose, in difficult situation. What do you do, right? Or what are the past things that we've done? During the early stage of young kids, I think getting the right support system was key. Having the right, either caretaker or family who can support, so that we have a bit less stress. I think what are the controllables and what are the non-controllables, right? So where we can, we do that. One of the controllables that I had was I remember there's a stage of career that it was so stressful, and I always come home with no energy, right? And then the kids want to engage, but I just no more energy.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do is just make sure that I have a simple thing, have a snack, before I come home. Then when I'm home, I've got energy back to re-engage the kids.
Don't be hungry.
Yeah. Don't be hungry. Don't be hangry.
Don't come home hangry.
I like the sneaker commercial. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with the right support system in the beginning, because I quite blessed in this area because I do have my in-laws helping me to take care of my daughters for the past, until now as well. So, on the support system, is there. But I do agree, I do notice that during the early days, because of our long history of marriage before with our daughters, just two of us, it's just like two-person world, like that, right? So sometimes we kind of like thought it's a bit kind of abstract to the point without taking consideration there is another additional new member. So we kind of raise our voice, become animated, become energetic, and this kind of like bringing another kind of impression to the daughter. So now we can notice that whenever we try to raise our voice in our conversation or we become a bit energetic, right? My daughter will become like afraid, like, you keep quiet down already.
Yeah.
Giving us a hint, you better don't proceed further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can feel it, I think.
True.
Yeah, true. What is that one value? So we talk about succession. We want to pass down good values. What is that one value you wish to pass down to your children and you hope that they will take this and run? Because I think there are many things that our parents try to pass down to us, but maybe we only take on like a few or one or two. But what is that one thing you hope your kids would take on?
Yeah, I like the point that Reverend, you were talking about our parents passed down, because actually a lot of times, whether consciously or unconsciously, how we behave and how our thinking patterns are influenced, by our previous generation. I grew up in I would say a very loving environment, a very supportive, and above all else, it's less so about achievements, but really getting the right heart in. So for us, for the three children, at least in the family even, it's really just having the right heart, the right intent, and that can be a very wide thing. So let's say in faith, right? It's really holding on to the faith, having the right heart for that. In how you treat people, again, is treat less so in terms of or thinking of the worst of others, but really thinking of the best of others, wanting to do the right thing, striving the best to do whatever that they are doing and have passion for those. So for us, really having that right heart, guarding that heart, just like the Bible says, right? Because it's the wellspring of life. So really just making sure that they have the right values and the right heart. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
For me, before this whole thing seems like we are just talking bad about our parents. So
we
it's
are
something
not.
that I hope that I've already gotten from my father. It's also something that I wish that I will pass down to my children, is the value of being humbleness. Because we sometimes you will have a series of wins and you are calling the shots in the company or in the family. You think you're a huge deal, you're a big deal, but actually you're not. You shouldn't think that you're a big deal.
When you come back home, you realize you're not.
Because the kids are the one who call the shot.
No,
is it?
And the wife
No,
says,
the
take out
wife.
the trash.
Take out the trash, big deal.
Yeah.
So it's that's what it's the humbleness, because once you admit to yourself and you realize that you don't know everything, you will never know everything, then the world is your oyster. Everything is within reach. Every person is within reach. So to add on to that, I know you just asked for one, but also is resilience, never giving up, being always optimistic that as long as you keep trying, one day you win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, as for me, I would like to pass down the ability to discern what is right, what is wrong, because in hopes that even though she does the wrong thing in future, but she did not overly did the wrong thing further. So at least we discern whether this is the right thing, this is what right thing to do, not the right thing to do based on the God's point of view, based on the Bible and everything. And if she in the position that she's committed something not that right, how she need to put a stop, and then how she can return back. So I would say this is one of the things that I would like to pass down to her, so that she can discern what is a good, right and not right thing to do in her life.
On the topic of discerning right and wrong, I'm not sure if you all feel it, but are there fears for your children? Like, because we live in a world that is, the worldviews are changing, the philosophies are changing, the morals are changing, right? Do you have a certain degree of fear? Is it healthy fear or is it negative? For me, I feel it's a mix of both. I fear literally, but I also have a healthy fear, which is kind of good to guard them, guard their hearts. But what about you all?
Okay, I do really have a fear because I mean my situation is a bit unique. I do have only one daughter, and eventually three. I mean, until she get married and everything, right? She will be alone if we are no longer on the earth, lah, right? So basically, we do have the fear also whether she made the right decision, whether she discern what is the right step for her, whether this is God's will or not. So this is always, I would say, practical fear that we always had. I mean, between myself and my wife, and then looking at the worldview as well, we're also very worried about what will be the culture, what will be the surrounding or the environment when she grow up. Yeah, whether she'll be influenced by certain culture or whether can we still stay true on the true path. So those are the things that is foremost in our mind. Yeah, and we are still like, to be honest, we are still like searching for the right method on how to inoculate that particular aspect in her life, which we are still finding the answer.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the biggest fear is the fear of the unknown. Like, we are afraid or we are fearful because we don't know what's going to happen, right? So, and I'm a fairly logical person. So I then try to...
And you have a teenage daughter.
And I do, right? and I always talk about this, and Shannon, as you see this, right? And I always say, not yet a teenage. So she is a teenage now. Last year, when she was not yet a teenage, and she thinks she's an adult, right? So there's a lot of things that, as our children grows into teenage, they are learning to be independent. They want to be independent, and they get frustrated when they are not. But that's the stage I think all of us went through, going from a kid into adolescent into adulthood. So for that fear of, hey, is our children or our children going to make the right decision as they have that decision rights, right? Is not illogical. I think that happens. So a lot of things that we do at home, some of the things that we do jointly as a spouse, that from very early on, is to build that trust and plant that seed so that we are there just in case, like what Alex was saying, if they're going to make a decision, whether it's a right or wrong, and very often it might be the wrong decision, that we are there and they will feel that we are a safety net that they can talk to, right? I mean, I don't think it's that often that the kids will, I did something wrong, let me go and fess up with my parents. I think unless you have that trust, right?
Yeah.
So a big part of it is whether the fear is there is to really prep up front to have that as a readiness. And then the other thing that we do is, give that a little bit of try, right? Create that experience in life for them to be able to make decision. First, to be able to see or test out, hey, if they do make the wrong decision, will they come back? It kind of akin to our relationship with God. Actually, we do a lot of things. We think that no one knows, but clearly God knows, right? Likewise, when our kids go through things, maybe they do certain things,
but we really don't know.
Actually, a lot of times we do know. We look at that and it's like, you know what happened? Then you say, right. What do you do? Nothing. But actually, you know. Yeah, you actually do. So it's, having those little, I guess, opportunity becomes teachable moments that we can then talk and continue to build that relationship. It's actually for both sides to learn, right? So we are not born parents. We are definitely not born perfect parents.
Yeah.
So we also need to go and learn. Every child's different.
Yeah.
So to then cope with that fear of them potentially making the wrong decision or being exposed to the wrong media, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I think this is a continuation of what Alex has just said about teaching them the ability to discern what is right and what is wrong, which I don't think that there's an end goal in sight. I think there's an ongoing journey where, like Philip said, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to keep trying until we hit the right one, until the value change, and then we need to adapt again. So it's an ongoing battle as the values of the world keep changing, as the media keeps getting more and more absurd. So it's an ongoing battle. It's always my fear. Two fears that I have is, firstly, one is very, where it's, for example, I will wake up sweating in the middle of the night, anxious, because my fear is one day I will be gone, and nobody will be taking care of them. Okay, and secondly is, if I'm still here, then they are making all the wrong decisions. I have to look at them and live with them making that wrong decisions.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing battle.
Very
These are my
realistic
two fears.
fears.
Yeah.
But we can surrender into God's hands.
Very true. Yes,
Yeah.
amen.
Yeah, I think to echo back what Philip mentioned, I would say the trust is very important, especially the trust with your kids, so that the kid can open up what they feel, and then what are the challenges or what are the dilemmas that they are having. I think this is very important. So for me, I'm still trying, maybe because my kid is too small. But I think it's a time also to build the trust between two of us, so that she will be more open up. She is more willing to speak if she hit any issue, rather than she keep it with herself. Then by the time came to know about it will be okay. It's too late already.
Yeah, true. Wow, that's very great, humble, what we call that, sharing from all of you. Well, we are gonna close very soon because we don't have the time. But then today's generation, I just realized this. Today's generation is a generation that fears fatherhood. They shy away from fatherhood. So you have married couples who say, no, let's not have kids. I'm afraid to have kids. Let's not even talk about having kids. Now, what will you say to such people to encourage them? Fatherhood is not that bad, actually.
Yeah. So let me go first. I think I'm very close to the subject because when we were trying to conceive, and there was a point that I think, okay lah, never mind lah. Let's just take it. The world is overpopulated anyways. Property is expensive. Healthcare is expensive. It's okay. No kids is okay. Yeah. But then I have kids. Okay. Then I'm thinking this is the biggest blessing a person can ever feel in their life. The feeling when you hold your baby, first, second, third lah. Or my mind second lah. So
third on the way.
Maybe I don't know. So when you hold that baby in your hands, it's the biggest feeling, biggest blessing that you can ever feel, as well as also the biggest blessing that you can ever bless another living being in your life. And for me, I think that's a life worth living. That is the only life worth living. Not to think about all this. What the world is coming to, how expensive the property is, how expensive childcare is. At the end of the day, God will provide. You just need to do your part, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, to echo back what Wang Kee has mentioned, yep, I do agree with you, because for us, we waited for about 14 years. Yeah. And initially we also tried to get pregnant by going through all those traditional Western daughter, you name it. We went through all the journey again until we are kind of like to say, okay lah, you are right. We need to be a bit more sustainability. The world is overpopulated. The ESG, right?
Wow.
ESG.
So, but then again, right, when the miracle comes, when God answers the prayer in unexpected way, you thought that you are not ready. Suddenly, God just give it to you. And for my case, when I hold the babies after she was born, it opened out a new, dimension, a new journey, a very interesting journey, very interesting and enriching experience, so that we can grow out with a new human being together. We have the opportunity to teach the next generation about the God's word, which is a very precious experience itself. Yeah. So I will say fatherhood or parenthood is definitely an interesting journey. Of course, there are ups and downs. Of course, there are a lot of challenges like the cost of tuition, the time allocated, things like that. But when you journey together, right, it's a totally different experience. You will learn how to love and also how to enjoy the journey together.
Yeah, life's a journey, yeah.
Nice.
I want to maybe echo in a slightly different way. I think the first is if someone is thinking about parenthood or against parenthood, or maybe even before that, I think we have to accept that it is a blessing of God, right? And God has a plan for all of us. Some we may be blessed with children, some we might not be. And I think that whoever's listening to this podcast, right, if you've been trying, don't get discouraged, right? Yeah. If you are intending to be a father or mother, and just like what Wang Kee and Alex has gone through that amazing journey. So everyone, I think, God has a different plan for everyone. Now, for people who's maybe, I don't know, hesitant or having second, third, fourth thoughts around that. I think quite important to understand where that comes from. Is it from, I don't know, their own childhood, let's say, or what they've seen in the media? Okay, this is too difficult and whatnot. And sometimes these are lies, right? Or sometimes these are things that we can break away from.
Yeah.
That, hey, through our faith in God and understanding very clearly that children are heritage of God, right? And therefore, they are blessings. And God will use that blessings to bless not just us, not just the child, but actually people around us. Just a simple testimony for me. It crossed my mind. I'm pretty. Now I'm coming to term that I think I'm pretty career-minded. Yeah. Especially this year, it's been super busy. And I think that why am I doing this? Yeah, maybe I'm placing a lot of emphasis in my career. So there are some point in time in my career I thought about this and say, hey, if I don't have kids, okay, because then, okay, I don't need to, I don't know, let's say fetch them to classes or spend time at home, will I be more successful in my career, right? So they kind of, so a few years ago, I kind of think about it. And then I come to this conclusion that actually with children, it helped me to be a much, much better person. How so, right? Well, we started off saying that, hey, if you see the kids behaving in a certain way, it's a reflection of us, right? So that mirror is forced to look at. You can choose to not to look at the mirror at home, or you can't, of your kids. You look at them, and you tell them, hey, that arrogance, or, that bad, poor temper, or whatnot, right? It probably came from me. That's something I need to do.
Yeah.
But a bit more positively, through children, I learned to be a lot more empathetic, to understand what people's going through, to understand, like I said, that we are off limit, that not everything is within our control, that we learn to be humbled by that, and then therefore submit to God. So there's all these things that I think maybe in the conventional media we don't consider, right? We just think about, hey, it's the cost and all these other things. But that, like what the two brothers said, when you hold your child in your hand, you look at them, you see this miracle, and then you start to realize that, hey, life is just beyond the two of us, as in the husband and wife, right? Through that, you see so much more things in life. So I encourage whoever that's thinking, having second thought, to consider these things.
Yeah, that's great. Now we have come to the end of our podcast, and honestly speaking, I learned so much from all three of you. And it's great having this conversation. Hope those listening would also be blessed. And, if you do have any issues or any problems as a father, reach out to any one of them.
And you.
And me as well. You can drop us a message on this podcast or on this YouTube page. Happy Father's Day to all of you.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy
To
Father's
all
Day.
fathers, you guys are doing great, doing a great job. So that's all for today. Thank you, and join us for our next episode.
Thank you.